Somebody really called and asked about making reservations for the Christmas pageant.
Yeah, he sent an email. He asked if it was general seating and if we needed reservations. And I was like, wow, this sounds super official on our end.
Maybe,
or the impression that it was giving.
Yeah, maybe we could make some money. I don't know.
No, we wouldn't want to do that.
No, I'll sell the tickets, and it turns out nobody actually needs them, but I'll just be selling them on the side and like convincing
You mean personal money?
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of, that's a terrible thing to do. I would never do that.
It's not in the Christmas spirit. That is not in the Christmas spirit.
I'm such a Grinch. I'm making people pay to come to the Christmas pageant.
You know what I really want to do?
You want to see your kid? You want to see your kid with a halo? You want to see your kid dressed up as a shepherd?
Yes.
Sure, $20.
Yes.
$20.
Wait, oh my gosh.
No, that's a terrible thing to do. I can't do something like that.
Not that you would do that, but
it's morally wrong.
There's a park in Florida. I forget which one it is, but anyways, somebody plays the Grinch and they play it so well, and so he's becoming like famous on TikTok, and you could just watch him, and his responses are very Jim Carrey, very Grinch-like, and I can just like look at him all day. I'm like, what would it be like to encounter you face to face? I would really enjoy that. It would just be so cool.
I don't know if I could do it.
I mean, I really, literally would not take the trip to Florida just to go see the Grinch. But if there happened to be somebody local who's
a local
perfect,
Grinch?
A local Grinch who personifies the Grinch through and through.
A local green-skinned person?
Costume.
Oh, it's a costume.
Costume and paint.
No way. I thought there were real Grinches.
No, that's actually true.
Well, here's the thing. So people, they'll use Grinch as a slur. So this Grinch did this thing, but the Grinch turned out okay. Did we forget the entire story that the Grinch turned out okay? Same thing with using Ebenezer Scrooge as a slur. Scrooge turned out great. He's a good guy in the end. Like, I know he started badly.
He was a good guy from the beginning.
But he had a conversion. Yeah. Are we just going to ignore the conversion? Are we just going to ignore the change of heart or the growth of the heart 3 sizes that day? I don't think we should. I think it's unfair to the character. I think it's unfair to the literature. I think it's non-canonical.
Oh my gosh.
And most of all, I think it denies the importance and the value and the worth of genuine, sincere conversion. I stand with the Grinch. I stand with Ebenezer Scrooge.
Do you need a mug and a hat?
Oh, I am on record. Bah humbug. I am with these guys. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's funny. That's really funny. Are you ready for Christmas?
I think so. I mean, I wonder if we'll be able to get this episode out before Christmas Day.
We'll find out.
I don't know. It might not happen. But yeah, I think I'm ready for Christmas. I know that my future sister-in-law has already received her gift, and my brother hasn't received his gift. I told them that they were getting shipped to them, and I didn't know whose was going to arrive first. It would be a race. And so,
were they taking bets?
She texted me yesterday and said, my gift arrived. And I said, good, Gabe's a loser. Just a way of teasing my brother. It was fun. Good time.
When are they supposed to get married?
September.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's exciting.
Obviously, you're doing the wedding.
That's the plan.
Okay.
That's the plan.
How would you feel if your brother didn't ask you?
I would like to think I'd be understanding. I deeply value.
I would like to think I would be understanding.
So here's the thing. All right. I deeply value my relationship with my brother. Mm-hmm. He's an extremely important part of my life. I love him dearly. And I would like to think that relationship would just sort of naturally involve me in the wedding. Mm-hmm. Right. However, a wedding is somebody's own affair. So if somebody wants to get married, they're getting married. Mm. And who they choose to invite or who they choose to involve is up to them. And I don't believe that I am owed an explanation for why I did or did not get an invitation to a thing. You know, mm-hmm. There are certain things that I think I am owed an invitation to, or that I ought to be consulted about. I'm a pastor of a parish, right?
There's an ordination happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Where is the priest?
We're going to have a conversation about how parishes are run. I think pastors need to be invited to that meeting. If I didn't get
You don't say.
Yeah, it seems crazy, I know.
It seems like such a crazy thing.
That's the kind of thing I absolutely expect that I'm invited to. And not only that I'm invited to, but I believe that I am obliged to attend. But having done weddings now for close on 15 years.
Wow, that's a lot of couples.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. One thing that I see happening very often for couples is that they struggle a little bit with forming their guest list because they're worried, if I don't invite this person, am I slighting them somehow? Or I need to involve all of these people. So sometimes you get a wedding party that might be, say,
people.
Excessive in its size. They feel an obligation to involve.
What's excessive for you?
Anything more than 7.
Okay, because 7 is a holy number, so we keep it there.
It's not because it's a holy number. It's just that like 7's kind of manageable, and 7 people can fit. 7 adult people can fit relatively comfortably in the first pew. And anything bigger than that, and it's like, do you really know these people? Unless they're all your siblings or something, in which case, go for it. But I don't know about that.
Yeah.
No, I look at a lot of these things, and I worry sometimes that people take on a burden. That they feel they are required or obliged to invite a huge number of people to their wedding. And then there are people who will approach them with the expectation that they are invited or that they're going to do something or that they're involved.
Yeah, this happened with my sister.
If somebody isn't asked to, for example, if somebody's not asked to be a bridesmaid, they'll take it as a personal affront, as though their friendship doesn't matter. And what I always want to remind people is the person getting married, the couple getting married, they have a right to decide what their wedding is going to look like, what their wedding party is going to look like, what the reception is going to be. You don't get to decide that for them, unless you're paying for it, in which case you should have some, like the parents of the bride and groom should be involved somehow.
Yeah.
That's a helpful thing, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's not up to you to decide that you get to be a bridesmaid or a groomsman or something like that, and then to feel offended if you don't get asked.
Have you seen a lot of that?
Fortunately, I don't see too much of it. I think that when people are getting married in the church, there's a sense of they understand kind of what the protocol is, and they can usually avoid some of that. But even there, every once in a while, you just see that they're struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
We had to invite all these like extra hangers-on or people, or they worry about, am I going to offend a friend of mine if I don't give them a +1 to the wedding? I can't afford to have this many people here, but I really want my best friend here. But my best friend in the last 2 months started dating somebody. I don't really know her, and I have no real interest in having her at my wedding, only because I don't know her yet.
Yeah.
Does he have to get a +1? And they get into all this stuff, and it can just be a little bit fraught and a little. I think there's too much pressure sometimes put on that stuff. And so my feeling is, all right, I want to be there for my brother, absolutely. But if he were to say, hey, we don't want you to do the wedding, I want to be ready and have that like holy detachment that would allow me to say,
indifference.
Yeah, I understand, and take the step back and not take it personally. Because I don't think first of all, he wouldn't do that. And if he did, it certainly would not be personal. As far as I know, we haven't done anything to offend one another gravely. So I think we're in good shape.
Each other,
I think we're okay.
But nothing gravely.
We have definitely offended each other in our lives, but that's the nature of being brothers, right?
Oh yeah, it totally sounds like that.
But there's, sometimes I just think we put too much on some of these things, and then we make it all personal.
I think it's powerful because remember we had a conversation once, and it really struck me that the couple getting married are the ministers of the sacrament. Like they are the ones, like.
To whom are you promising your life? To this person, to this man, to this woman. You're promising your life.
And you're there as a witness.
I'm the church's witness who receives the vows on behalf of the church as like the public witness.
Yeah.
But also who gives the church's blessing to the union.
Yeah. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, the sacrament of marriage is beautiful in that way because it's the couple making this promise to one another. But that promise is also a receptivity. And this is another aspect of marriage that I think that the new translation of the rite of marriage really captures beautifully. Because in the order of marriage, it talks about, it used to say with the exchange of rings, it would say, take this ring as a sign of my love and fidelity. So
I
it
know,
was
I
it was meant
give
to
you
emphasize
this ring.
the gift. Yeah,
Yeah.
take this ring. This is a gift. But now it says receive this ring as a sign of my love and fidelity. Well, if it's receive the sign, my love and fidelity. So the love and fidelity is what's being given. That's the actual thing being given. And love and fidelity demands the total gift of self.
Yeah.
A couple getting married is giving themselves to each other entirely. Here's all of me. Here I am. I'm entrusting my life to you, and you are entrusting your life to me. And that means we're going to share everything together. And so if marriage is about that total sharing of everything, and that's the sacramental bond that's taking place, then when I say receive, I'm asking you to receive what I'm offering, what I'm giving, and what I'm bringing.
Right.
And what I am bringing is my love and fidelity first and foremost. And everything that my love and fidelity then inspires in me. In the body, in my prayer, in my presence, in my personality, in the words that I speak, in the actions, everything that's what I'm giving to you.
Totality of who you are.
Yeah, but what I'm asking you to do is to receive it.
Yeah.
So to receive me as I am and for what I am. I'm not asking you to take like the thing, take this ring, which sometimes can be the emphasis too much. It's on the ring itself.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't have any problem with people getting nice engagement rings. Please go for it. It's great. But like in the end, the engagement ring isn't the important thing. The wedding ring is the important thing. Spend more time picking out the wedding ring than you do the engagement ring.
Fascinating.
Right? Because the engagement
Wow.
ring, the engagement ring is a gift.
It is, yeah.
It's I want you to know that I love you, and symbolically, like maybe I might be philosophizing this a little bit too much, but like here's the engagement ring. Will you marry me? And as a sign of what I want to do for you, I'm going to give you this entirely superfluous item that's extraordinarily expensive, something precious. And I mean this in the realest sense.
Yeah.
Like of all the things that are needed in life, you don't need this shiny thing. You need a roof over your head. You need food. But as a sign of how much I want to provide
Or
for
like
you.
500 years ago, you need a goat.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But like as a sign of how deeply I want to provide for you, how much I want to give to you, I'm going to give you this totally superfluous thing
Yeah.
to show also my desire to give you the things that you need.
Yeah.
And over and above what you need, I want to give you this. Like that's what love is supposed to be. The love of God, right, is super abundant. In fact, if you read the Latin translation of the Our Father, it talks about the super substantial bread, right? This idea of
I literally don't know the Our Father in
maybe
Latin,
it's not
and I
in the
never
Our
learned it.
Maybe it's not in the Our Father, but I'm
Latin
fried.
phrase.
Yeah, this is my third podcast today.
What is wrong with you?
I had to do 2 other episodes.
It's okay.
For
This
the
is
tangent,
this
so-
is like my 4th long conversation.
Ah, great.
So I was like,
We are
today's
all
a talking
in
day.
today. Woo.
I was like, today's.
I still have to do the church tour with the second graders this afternoon.
Oh, God bless you.
It's going to be great.
I'm done talking with people
Oh, I can't
after
wait.
this.
No, it's going to be great. Anyway, I mean it in the real, true, proper sense of here's this entirely superfluous and yet precious gift, and I want you to receive it. Here's something that you don't actually need, but symbolizes something of the love that I have for you. It is super substantial. It goes beyond what is necessary. It is more than substance. It's more than just like a practical thing.
Yeah.
In the end, an engagement ring is not practical. I mean, it looks nice in pictures. You know, she does the thing where she puts her hand right up to the camera, and it,
Guy's face is right there.
yeah, exactly,
Just attached.
exactly. You know, or they have the pose where like they're holding each other, and her hand is like right on his arm or on his chest, like just so you can see the ring. Like we want this to be definitely out there. It's great. There's nothing wrong with it. But the ring itself is like, this is totally superfluous. This is not necessary to express how much you love one another. And yet, there's a beautiful symbolism in the gift. And this is another thing that we can talk about.
Yeah.
We need superfluous things sometimes.
We need beautiful things.
Because and superfluous, I don't mean like extra that are unnecessary, but
Like transcending.
those things
meaning.
that speak to the transcendent nature of the love that this man has for this woman.
Yeah.
Right? We need those kinds of things because they remind us of something so much bigger. Yeah. All this comes back then to setting guest lists and table arrangements for weddings. Right? Because I don't think that it's a good idea to take personally an invitation or a lack of an invitation. If you've been invited to a wedding, be grateful. In fact, Jesus talks about this in the gospel. When you are invited to a banquet or to a wedding feast, do not take the place of honor, but go to the lowest place. Don't assume that you get this great place of honor or even that you're entitled to it. Just go, show up, be there. And then if they want you in a different place, they're going to bring you to that different place. But don't make it a personal thing of like, I deserve to have this special place. Why in the world do we think that we are all entitled to go to these things or to be part of it?
I'm mind blown because I don't really hear the conversations as much. I don't really know. At this point, what I hear is I'm invited to too many weddings. Stop inviting me. I am wasting so much money and spending too much money.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm hearing at this point in my life.
I really
stop getting married.
Marriage is great.
Marriage is great.
Strongly encourage it.
Marriage is great.
We're like the Lamb. We are proponents of marriage.
Oh yes, no, very, very, very much. It's a little comedic effect here.
But there's I think people who are on the receiving end, not the couples getting married, but the people who surround them, we need to cultivate a really understanding attitude that to be invited to a wedding is a gift. It means that somehow this is really precious. But to not be invited to the wedding is not necessarily a slight. To not be invited to a wedding might simply mean they want to keep the wedding small. They're being deliberate about keeping the wedding small.
Yeah, well, they're financial reasons or,
and they have,
personal reasons.
Everybody. And they have a right to do that.
Exactly, yeah.
It could be that like maybe she comes from an enormous family and has lots and lots of friends and he's an only child and most of his family members are deceased.
Yeah.
He might not have that same kind of network and group to draw on.
Yeah.
And so they want to keep it deliberately small so that it's not a big comparison of like, look how enormous this family is. Look how packed her side is and look how small his side is. It might be that they deliberately want to keep it small for any number of different reasons. I think if we take that idea of I want to support this bride and groom, I want to love them, and I just want them to know that I'm here for them, then if I get invited, great. If I don't get invited, fine. I still support them and I can leave it at that. But there's all this like Dear Abby has this constantly. You ever read Dear Abby? The advice column?
Yeah. I don't read it.
I read it because
you read it?
It's right next to the comic strips. It's right next to all the comics. So
that's in the New York?
It's in the newspaper.
I don't read the newspaper.
If I'm going to read the funnies, like then I gotta check out what Dear Abby says. Do you seriously not do this?
I don't read the newspaper.
You don't have to read it. You just got to read the comics. It's the only important
part.
But
like I don't even receive it at my house.
Yeah, that's because
the only newspaper that comes to my house is the Fairfield County Catholic, but that doesn't make it.
So I also get the hard copy of the newspaper because it's a much easier way to get the obituaries.
Oh,
you got to check the obituaries.
Yeah,
it's actually it's a real thing. The number of times I've checked the obituaries and been so grateful that I did because I realized that a friend of mine from school lost a parent or a grandparent or something, and I was able to send a card.
Yeah.
Or even in some cases like show up at the wake and just offer condolences. I don't really think that there's a whole lot of value to most of the newspapers these days. They're not really giving you that much. There's a huge value to print media. I want to say that clearly. I believe very strongly in print media.
Yeah.
But most newspapers are just kind of trash now. But the obituaries, that's where it's at.
So are you saying we should just have obituary newspapers?
So
Here's the Cemetery Times.
There's another good reason for the priest to check out the newspaper. One is the obituaries. So you can make sure that you've got that and you can have masses said for people when necessary.
Yeah.
But another reason is your local newspaper will actually tell you stuff about things happening locally. Like we had a parishioner who went to the World Cup. I haven't had a chance.
Wait, this World Cup?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to see him yet, but they did a front page article on him in the Connecticut Post, and I wanted to tell him that was awesome. It was so cool to see you and see your face on the front of the newspaper. That must have been a great experience because I've had a good time watching the World Cup.
I need to ask you who that was after this.
Yeah.
Do I know this person?
I think so.
Maybe not.
Yeah, but it was just really cool to see.
Yeah.
Right. So you get things like that, these events, or somebody does something that's really good in the community. So a local newspaper can be really valuable that way. The other thing is the sports section, because the sports section in a local paper always reports on high school sports. And if one of the kids in your parish is doing something and has accomplished something,
you get to,
when you see it and you know about it, you're able to compliment them, to celebrate it kind of at a parish level. It's really good.
Yeah.
So these are the reasons, right?
That's cool.
For the print media. Anyway, I think that weddings are great, but we shouldn't put so much emphasis on certain things. It's not really fair to the bride and groom.
So it sounds like it's more the emphasis should really be on like the bride and the groom and their relationship with God and what.
The only thing that matters is the bride and groom and their relationship with God.
That's it.
In fact, in order for the wedding to happen, all that's necessary is the bride and groom and 2 witnesses and the church's minister.
You can have literal as 2 people?
That's all that's required.
That's really cool.
We need to have 2 witnesses. That makes it public. And so you have to do, we also do what's called the publishing of the banns. So the banns of marriage, it's the announcement. For 3 weeks, we announce that this wedding is going to take place.
Oh.
This couple is getting married. It goes back to, like, let's say a time when information doesn't travel as easily.
Right.
So we're making the public notification that this man intends to marry this woman. If you know of any reason why they are not able to marry,
be wed, like he's got.
Yeah, he's got a wife and 3 kids in the next village over.
Exactly.
20 miles away. There's this village, and he's just like snuck over here.
Well, that's great. It's the church's way of trying to keep people honest.
Yeah. But it's also the reminder,
Yeah.
A very visible reminder that marriage is public in its nature. It's not an entirely private affair. Now, how you wish to celebrate the marriage is, right? You can have a party, and that party is private. Nobody gets invited to the party. But marriage as a sacrament is a public event. In fact, marriage in a secular sense is public. If you go to the Hall of Public Records or the Department of Public Records in your town, you can usually find marriage licenses, copies of marriage licenses.
Yeah.
You can see that there's a record of these marriages that have taken place. It's a matter of public record. This is not an entirely individual private thing that can just be kept between the couple. No, this is something that it has consequences for society. And so that understanding that marriage then, if it's a public thing, needs to be announced. Well, then it also needs to be witnessed. The public needs to witness it. Symbolically, the best man and the maid of honor are the public.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 witnesses. But those are the people who would then be called upon as witnesses to testify.
Yeah.
Did this marriage take place? Yes, I saw it take place. I was present when it happened. I heard them say the words. And you have 2 testimonies because even Jesus talks about this in the gospel. Testimony can only be established by the word of 2 witnesses. It's not enough to just have one person testify.
You need someone to affirm that.
You need 2 people who can testify to the same thing.
Yeah.
And when Jesus goes on trial, what happens? But they have contradictory testimony.
Yeah.
So his trial is an unjust trial, which has nothing to do with marriage right now. But
No. That's really cool. That's a cool tangent.
yeah,
It's like this is for the tangent.
that's my other podcast.
That's your other podcast. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the church looks at marriage and sees this, and really everything that the church does surrounding marriage is all based on what do we understand of what marriage is. Marriage is a public sacrament because marriage has a natural place in society.
But it's also eternal.
Marriage is also something that has consequences that reverberate unto eternity. Marriage has deeply spiritual consequences and significance. And because in a sacrament, what is natural is raised to the level of what is supernatural.
Yeah.
Right? Bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ in the sacrament of the Eucharist. In marriage, man and woman, united naturally through marriage, become one with God.
Yeah.
And so God sacramentalizes the marriage and makes the marriage actually a source of holiness, such that they can sanctify one another, and such that through that sanctified marriage, they become co-creators with God. Marriage has purpose, right? The purpose of marriage. What is the purpose of marriage as the church understands it? The purpose of marriage is for the deeper unity of the spouses, the mutual support of the spouses, mutual support being really important, that they support one another, and for the bearing of children, right? The unity of the spouses leads to their sanctification as they are united more and more, and it tends in that direction towards that deeper unity of heart and mind, and even of soul, right? Marriage is meant to be for them, for their mutual support, and marriage is meant to bring children into the world. They become co-creators with God. Through the sacrament of marriage, men and women are invited to be co-creators with God, even if they're not able to have children. They are still co-creators with God, because the creative love that allows God to create, out of love he creates everything that is. This couple, by the love that they share, creates.
Right.
Even if
So
it's
even
not
that's
a human
welcoming
life.
spiritual children in their life.
Exactly.
Like you could be a spiritual mom to 40 people.
Yeah. So if these are the things that marriage is meant to do,
Yeah.
then we have to, that's how we understand what the church is teaching about marriage. That it's
Yeah.
because this is what the church believes marriage to be.
Mm-hmm.
So marriage is for this purpose. Then everything that surrounds marriage is all pointing to that purpose.
It's all pointing to, here's the freedom that you're being given. Like, I know I bring this analogy all the time up, but it's like in a playground without a boundary or a fence, you don't get to run around amok as much as possible freely. But, the church in its wisdom is providing this guardrail. So essentially you receive the most out of not just the sacrament, but also with each other. Or maybe that's wrong. Maybe.
No, I would start
No.
at a more basic level.
Okay.
It's more, we have a definition of what marriage is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Marriage is
Between.
a union that tends towards the unification and the mutual support of the spouses and the rearing of children. Right? That co-creatorship with God. That's what marriage is. It is that exclusive, free, total, fruitful, faithful union that leads to these things. If we don't understand what marriage is, then it's not so much the playground without fences, without boundaries. It's, I invite you to play baseball, and then when you show up to play baseball, I throw a basketball at your head.
That's exactly. Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
more like making sure that everybody knows what sport we're playing.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is marriage. We're not talking about your ordinary dating relationship. We're not talking about something else. We're not talking about a contract that you sign. We're not talking about a business deal. We're talking about marriage. This is what marriage is. So everything that the church does surrounding marriage, the different requirements that are present, the documentation that we take, the records that we keep, it's all because this is what we understand marriage to be. And all of these things point to to that true understanding. We want to make sure that everybody who enters into marriage knows what they're getting into. And that's so that they can grow. That's so that they have the full understanding. It's also so that if they look and say, I don't think that that's what marriage is supposed to be, or I don't want that, they can walk away before they do the wrong thing. So it's making very clear, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about this game, baseball, is like this. Yeah, but I would really rather go and play soccer. Then go play soccer.
Yeah.
But don't pretend that you're playing baseball and then try to bring a soccer ball onto the field. Not the same thing, and not the right place. So it helps to clarify.
Where have you seen that in your ministry for 15 years, kind of like dealing with different people?
I would say,
have you seen like someone trying to put a soccer ball into the baseball field?
I think if anything, it's talking with couples who they want to get married, and they do intend true marriage. They get what marriage is. But often you'll have couples who have sort of adopted some of the, I don't really know exactly the right phrase for it, but let's just say some of the more worldly approaches to marriages and to weddings, and their focus may be more on the wedding.
Like the ceremony itself rather than like the marriage.
Right.
Okay.
And so they're talking about what a wedding looks like.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that they know what a marriage looks like. They want to talk about what the wedding day would be and what they can do at the wedding. And I want to make sure they understand what marriage and every day that happens after the wedding is. And I would say 9.9 times out of 10, when you start talking to them about every day after the wedding, something clicks and they realize, oh yeah, wedding planning and marriage preparation are two totally different things. Planning for a wedding is one thing.
Yeah.
Preparing for marriage is another thing.
Yeah.
We can do both, but they're different things.
Yeah.
And there might be in certain spots some overlap, but they're very different things. And so I have fortunately not had the experience really of people not understanding what marriage is. I have unfortunately had the experience of some people saying, yeah, I understand what marriage is, but I definitely don't want that. And I see the heartbreak that can lead to later on. But in the main, it's more helping couples. My experience doing pre-Cana has been, and marriage preparation has been, to help couples just to realize that we're preparing for the whole of marriage and the beauty of what marriage can be. We're not only getting you ready for the wedding day.
Yeah.
I tell them, don't worry about the wedding. The wedding's going to be great. I promise. I'll make sure you have a beautiful wedding.
As long as you both are there.
Yeah, exactly. Just show up, and please show up on time. Did I tell you I had that wedding where the 2 weddings in a day? And
did they go that late?
No, it was amazing.
Oh,
it was amazing. I got to get this recorded because
that's crazy.
This was so incredible.
You did 2 weddings in a day.
Well, not only it was 2 weddings in a day, and not only did I have 2 weddings in a day, but both couples were early for their wedding.
How early?
Like at least 10 minutes early. They had, like, their bridal party was there.
Wow.
The reason that we didn't start exactly on time was not because we were waiting for the bride and groom, but because so many people were coming in and they were just like getting there and running in, and the weather wasn't great that day. So there was like extra traffic.
It was rainy.
It was really rainy.
It was really rainy that day.
But these couples were early. I have never had 2 weddings in a row where the couples were early, much less 2 weddings on the same day where couples were early. It was amazing. They were great. I was so proud of them. I was so happy. Oh my goodness. And that was just for the wedding day. Again, the wedding day is not the most important thing. The most important thing is the marriage, but wow.
It makes it so much less stressful.
if the wedding day was any indication of what these guys are going to do in their married life, whew, they're going to be all set. They're in great shape. What a gift.
Do you have people who come to you like, obviously they totally understand what marriage is, but they have like the preferences for the wedding ceremony?
Oh, sure.
So then how do you reconcile that with what the church teaches or what the church permits or what, like?
So I think the biggest thing when it comes to the ceremony itself is helping them understand that marriage, in terms of the sacrament, in order for the sacrament to happen, there's a form that the church gives to us. So we need matter and form in order for a sacrament to be valid. So the valid matter for the Eucharist is bread and wine. And the form is the words of consecration spoken by a priest. The valid matter for a wedding, for a marriage, is a man and a woman who are free to get married, who are not married to anybody else, who are capable of entering into marriage. And then the form is the vows that they speak. But the vows are given. There's a particular way that those vows have to be said. And that's the valid form. Sometimes a couple comes in and says, can we write our own vows? No. But yes. No, you cannot write your own vows and use them in place of the vows that the church gives to us during the wedding. But yes, you are perfectly free to write promises to one another and things that you want to say to each other that express your love, and you're free to share those with one another at any time, at the reception, in public, in front of people, in private, however you want to do it. You are free to do that. There's nothing, I can't tell you, no, you're not allowed to make promises to one another. Right? That's up to your freedom. If you want to make promises to each other, go ahead. But the sacramental promises are these.
What are they?
I need you to promise to be faithful.
Okay.
Right? So it goes, I promise to be faithful to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, to love you and to honor you all the days of my life. So what you have there is, I promise to be faithful to you. This relationship is exclusive, excluding all others. Fulton Sheen has a great thing in 3 to Get Married. He talks about
it's a great book.
It's very good. But he talks about this, that a man choosing to marry, so, Steve chooses to marry Evelyn. And when he chooses to marry Evelyn, that is to the exclusion of all other women. Yeah. And he goes, marriage is the most exclusive thing you can imagine. It's all about exclusion.
Talk about FOMO.
Marriage is all about excluding others. And in the best way, right?
Yeah.
So I promise to be faithful to you. This relationship is exclusive. You're the only one. I am faithful to you in all things. Body, mind, and spirit. I am faithful to you. I promise to be faithful to you in good times and in bad. Whether things are going well or things are difficult, whether we have money or no money, whether things are happy for us or we're struggling in our relationship with one another, I still promise to be faithful to you. It doesn't promise I will love you. Right? Like, it doesn't promise as long as we love each other,
or as long as things are going great.
Right? So I promise to be faithful to you. Full stop. In good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. Right? So whether or not I'm sick or healthy, And then to love you and to honor you all the days of my life, understanding that love is not the emotional component of love. Right? So before, when I said, like, I'm not promising to love you, I'm promising to be faithful to you, good times and bad. But I'm also promising to love you, which is a distinct promise, because love is a choice. Love is an act of the will. So I will your good, to will the good of another, true charity, to cultivate the virtue of charity within this relationship where I want you, I want the greatest thing for you. Not the emotional warm fuzzies of love, though that's fine. Ain't nothing wrong with romantic love. The church supports it. Right? We're okay with that idea. We like it when couples are in love. We like it when couples gaze upon one another and flutter their eyelashes and are just deeply doe-eyed in love with one another. We think that's great. It's beautiful.
It's
Please.
important.
We absolutely have to encourage that. But understand that love is also a choice. It's an act of the will that says, I choose to love you even when it is difficult. I choose to love you, to have charity for you even when you've made me angry. I choose to love you no matter what. And that choice for love, that desire to say, I think charitably of you and I desire what is best for you, has an ultimate consequence.
Yeah.
Because what is the greatest good that we can desire for another person but that they would go to heaven?
Yeah.
This is the vow of marriage then. I promise to love you and to honor you, which is to say, I respect you because you hold the position of spouse. Right? You are my spouse. Therefore, I honor you as my spouse. I might really be mad at you for what you've just done, but you are my spouse, and I honor you. That will therefore inform and form everything about how I interact with you here. Sometimes you get mad at somebody who you honor. You can be mad at somebody who you respect.
Yeah.
You can even feel deeply passionate that they're wrong about something. But because you respect them and honor them, how are you going to approach them with this disagreement or with this anger or whatever it might be? And part of honoring them is I'm going to tell you when I'm mad at you. Part of honoring them is I'm going to love you even when it's difficult for me. And I'm going to honor you in the way that I speak about you. I'm going to honor you in the things that I choose to do. And so what do you do with somebody who you respect? Do you try to make them angry? No, you think about what's good for them. And you try to do only the things that are going to be good for them and helpful for them. And then all the days of my life, I promise to be faithful to you in good times and bad, in sickness and health, to love you and to honor you all the days of my life. As long as there's breath in my lungs, I will do these things for you. So until my dying breath or yours. It's a very powerful thing, like until death. Greg Bottaro says this. He says that he just wants people to repeat that in marriage prep. The only thing is till death. You have your whole lifetime to figure it out.
That's true.
That's an important piece of it. Like you have your whole life to figure this out together. The church does not ask you to walk into marriage with knowing absolutely everything.
You can't, because you have to experience it.
Right.
And you have to go through life in order to know and to grow.
That's why we say good times and bad, sickness and health, because there are those things that we don't know. One of the other pieces right before the vows in the rite of marriage, the couple is asked to state their intentions. And the statement of intention is, are you prepared as you follow the path of marriage to love and honor each other? Are you prepared as you follow the path? But you don't know where the path is going. You don't know where the path is going to lead you, but are you prepared to love and honor each other before God? Are you prepared to stand here before God saying, I will do this as you follow the path? In other words, do these vows mean something to you beyond this ceremony? Are these vows of value to you every day as you walk and as you follow that path together? Will you live these vows every day, not just on this day? That's the beauty of it. You're following the path of marriage. You have no idea where that path is going to lead you. You have no idea what comes next.
Scary part of it.
It's absolutely the scary part of it. It's the same thing, though, for a priest.
For a priest, same thing.
When a priest is ordained, we have no idea where we might end up or where we're going to be sent, what God is going to ask us to do, or the situations where he's going to ask us to minister. But he says, are you ready to do this? Are you willing to walk with me and do this? Are you willing to bring me to the people?
Didn't tell everything. On. Oh, yeah, it's the same thing. Everybody goes through it.
Well, no, hang on. So, Mary, did you know? Yes. The answer is yes. First of all, just stop with that stupid song. It's a terrible song. I hate it.
I know you
hate that song so much. Mary knew.
She knew.
Did she know
She knew the scripture.
Did she know every single detail, like that he's going to walk on water?
No.
She didn't know he's going to walk on water. But come on, that's not the point.
It's
just such a frustrating song.
But it's so catchy and sounds
No, but
so nice.
but the answer is so simple. Like, if words are like, look, if the words are dumb, then the whole, like, however nice it might be, the whole thing gets ruined. Because Mary, did you know? Yes, she knew because the angel told her. Yes, she knew because she was a smart woman who had read the scriptures. She knew. So singing a whole song, did you know? Did you know? Did you know? You sound so stupid when you sing that song.
But Simon also told her
that
later
song
on
so
too.
Much. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I can't stand that song.
You sound like the Grinch.
I'm okay with that. It's just maddening, though. Like,
it's maddening, he says. It's maddening. I can't handle it.
When something is stupid, it's stupid. Like, just you
literally sound like the Grinch.
But how am I supposed to tolerate that? It's like it's the most ridiculous thing in the world, and then you want me to just say, "Oh, yeah, it's a great song." No, because the melody's nice. No, it's not. It's not even a nice. It's not even that great a melody.
I don't even know what to do with you.
This is okay.
You cannot be this agitated before Christmas. Okay, it's not the time.
No, this is I blame my father. Okay?
Oh, he taught you all this?
Well, my father is a musician and a songwriter.
Oh, yeah. You know better. That's all you're trying to say to us.
He taught me to listen for the lyrics. And if the lyrics are dumb, then it's not a good song. I don't care how catchy the melody is or how rhythmically pleasing it might be. If the lyrics don't make any sense, it's not a good song. That's the nature of poetry. Like there is such a thing as bad poetry and good poetry, and things have to make sense. They have to tell a story. And this song doesn't make any sense because it's ignoring the evidence of scripture that's right in front of anybody who can read.
What's hilarious is that you're getting so frustrated, a strand of your hair has come forward and been let loose.
Wait till the beard starts getting wild, because that can happen too. It just starts like springing out.
I was going to ask a question back to the topic we were talking about.
Yeah, let's talk about marriage again.
No, but no, I just forgot it because you went on to your beard.
I'm sorry.
What was I going to say? Oh, that's the question I had is, at what time was the rite written? You know, like, what's the history of the rite of marriage? And in addition, like, all these other parts, you know, like the church has its own court system, so to speak, right? Its own laws. Like, how do you understand all of that?
Yeah.
In junction with, like, okay, Jesus' church, he came and established a church, right? He didn't write the rite. I mean, did he? I mean, like,
correct.
Right. So, like, so that's what I'm trying to. How do you do that?
So the different rites of the church, I don't know off the top of my head exactly like how the rite of marriage itself developed, or at what point there was a ritual for marriage. But the rites, the different ways that the church celebrates liturgies and prays, have all developed truly organically over time.
Yes.
And over time, they become like a commonly shared way of doing things. Eventually codified, written down, uniform. So there's a way of doing this. But keep in mind, marriage is something that's natural. Right? So marriage exists as a natural institution. And so the idea of the sacrament of marriage being something distinct is an important one. And so Catholics are obliged to seek the sacrament because this is something that's distinct from the natural institution of marriage and yet shares in the natural institution of marriage, right? The church's law comes into play over time. Over the course of time, that the church recognizes that there's a need for law because the church is a society just as any country is a society. So if I establish this territory as my country, I'm the king, I have to make laws. And what's the purpose of law? The purpose of law is both to ensure that people are protected, that they have what is necessary, and that they know what they are entitled. And the purpose of law is also to order the society in a proper direction, so that those who have obligations know what their obligations are and are held accountable for reaching those obligations, for keeping those obligations. So the purpose of law, that's the purpose of law universally. Is to protect people with the rights that they have, and also to make sure that there are rights that are not granted by the state. So the law also serves the purpose of safeguarding those laws, or those rights rather, which do not come from humanity. There are laws that are ours by nature, that God has given to us. And so good law must always respect the law of God. It must always respect the natural law
Right.
and the good functioning of the natural law.
All right.
The state could then decide to confer certain rights on certain people. Say, all right, we're gonna give you this right. We're going to extend this right to you because you're a citizen of our country, or because you hold this particular position. Okay, but then the law exists to codify what they can do, or what those rights are, but also to protect the interests and the rights of people from those rights being violated or abused. Right? So law exists both for the good ordering of society and the protection of the members of that society. In the church, it's no different. The law exists for the good ordering of the life of the church, which is a society in and of itself, and to protect the rights of the individual members of the faithful. And even to protect the rights of those who are not members of the church. There are certain times where the church says, you're not a member of the church, but you have rights. So, for example, if there's a case of somebody's petitioning to see if their marriage is a valid sacrament or not, they're asking for a declaration of nullity. Maybe their former spouse is not Catholic, or is not even a baptized person. As far as the church is concerned, that person has rights. And that person has the right to ask questions. That person has the right to explain things, to tell their story, to give testimony. That person is entitled to all of the same things, even though they're not a member of the faithful. Like you have the right to ask these questions, or you have the right to give an answer to these questions. You also have the right to say, I don't want to participate. I want nothing. But the church respects that right and recognizes that right. The church would also look at the world and say, all right, how many people out in the world are not Catholic? And how many of them are married? Right? Does the church say that none of those marriages are valid? Not at all. The church recognizes that according to your tradition, according to your religious convictions, according to the natural law, you are
Validly married.
You are married. At the very least, there's a truth to the act of marriage there.
Right.
And so the church presumes the validity of any marriage that is not obviously invalid. Right? If I decide that I'm going to marry that door over there, and
That seems to be a
and
problem.
I make the claim that I've now married the door, well, the church is going to say, no, you didn't, because you can't marry an inanimate object. That's not true. There's no valid matter present there for real marriage. But the church respects that, right? So the existence of law is really so that there's a good ordering of things, because otherwise there could be chaos.
Yeah.
The chaos of I can just do whatever I want and nobody can tell me that I'm right or wrong, in which case I become, or you become, the final arbiter of truth, the final arbiter of all discipline that is Christian, right? Like, well, I think that Christians should behave this way. Well, I think that they should behave this way. We've got to have some kind of a standard, right, that we follow. Otherwise, things get just utterly chaotic. Well, that's the case, right? So there's a genuine need for that kind of protection present.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why the church has law. And then when you start to apply that law to situations of marriage, so for example, a couple comes and they want to get married, and you have one who's a Catholic and one's not Catholic, but they're baptized. We want to make sure that they understand the difference in their approach to the Christian faith. They're both Christian. We want to make sure that you understand that there's a difference, but also that the Catholic party understands that by getting married, there's a sacramental bond that is established, even if this other party doesn't believe that marriage is a sacrament, right? They have to understand what the Catholic party believes. And then you have to understand how those differences in belief can impact your interaction with the marriage. And are you ready to interact according to what the church believes marriage to be? Are you ready to live according to what the church believes marriage to be? Or are you not ready to enter into what the church offers, to what the church teaches about marriage, which is that free, fruitful, faithful, unto death union, right? And so there's got to be that question. Likewise, in the case of somebody who's not a baptized person who wants to marry a baptized person, a Catholic, there has to be an understanding that the Catholic knows what their obligations are. Because if this relationship is not only for the mutual support of spouses and the mutual sanctification of spouses, you got to be able to sanctify each other. And there can be a real obstacle if somebody's not baptized to helping to sanctify one another,
Yeah.
right? If you don't share that faith in Christ,
Yeah.
that can be an obstacle. It does not have to be, and the church understands that it does not have to be.
Right.
We need to know that you understand what those challenges are and are prepared for them and are prepared to enter into them.
Yeah, because the truth is that you can't, I mean, it's hard to do life by itself, but to do it without Jesus is harder.
Oh yeah, trying to do life without Jesus is
It's
impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then this other piece of it, though, is that if marriage is for the mutual support and unity of the spouses, that great benefit of what that love and companionship is, but it is also for the raising of children. It's also procreative. It's to share in God's creative gift. And if you're invited to share in God's creative gift, how is God active with his creation? But he's present. He is present with his creation. It's not just like, oh yeah, this is done and now I'm just gone. I'm not present here.
Right.
What happens with a child? You bring a child into the world and it's not just like, well, the kid's on his own. He's going to have to figure this out and it'll
All
be fine.
hands on deck.
Yeah, no, it's you have a responsibility and an obligation to that child. Well, for a Catholic, the obligation is to hand on what you have received, which is the gift of faith, and to raise your child in the ways of faith and to teach them the faith. So that's the obligation that a Catholic has. And why? Well, if we are called as disciples to go to all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, if we are called to go and give our testimony to the whole world, where to begin but right at home? It's very difficult to evangelize family, I know.
Yeah.
But a parent has particular obligations toward their child.
Yeah.
Parent, you got to feed your kid at least once a day.
At least.
Yeah, bathe them at least once a month, whether they need it or not.
Did you use this line already?
Oh, tons of times.
I was like, I'm
Tons
pretty
of
sure I've
times. Yeah,
heard this
constantly.
before.
Yeah. No, these are there are fundamental natural obligations that a parent has towards their children.
Yeah.
But there are also supernatural obligations that a parent has towards their children, to raise them in the faith, to introduce them to Christ, to form them in that way so that when the time comes, that child can say, I believe or I don't believe. That child can say, I accept everything that my parents have taught me and I'm ready to live it, or to say, I don't care about any of this and I'm out.
Yeah. So, I mean,
But in the end, it becomes the child's choice.
Yeah.
But you have formed them so that they can make that choice.
to the best of your,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
And so when you have a mixed marriage, one Catholic and one non-Catholic, or a disparity where there's a non-baptized and a Catholic getting married, the church has a vested interest in making sure that you both know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Both parties to this marriage need to understand what's happening and need to understand what the church understands marriage to be, and therefore what is required for a true marriage. In the eyes of the Catholic faith, this is what marriage is. We need you to understand that. And we need you to understand that there could be potentially, it's not a guarantee, but there could be potentially some challenges to that because of those differences. Those differences are not insurmountable, nor are those differences things that must always be a point of conflict, but we need you to know about it. We need you to talk about it. And we need you to understand what your responsibility is. You, Catholic party, we need you to know what your responsibility is. The other part is the church is very interested in saying to the Catholic party, are you going to be free to live your faith? You could have a situation where somebody gets married to a non-Catholic who then refuses to let them go to church, or who constantly makes it an obstacle, or who starts putting conditions on the marriage that they can't live up to because they're being asked to choose between the spouse and their God.
Right.
And so the church has a vested interest in protecting the Catholic party to say, like, no, you've got to be free to live out your faith. And if that's not going to be the case, we want to talk about this now.
Yeah.
Before you get married, we want to make sure that this is agreed upon. And that you've made this decision together. But also we want to make sure that you understand that you respect one another no matter what, because I can't tell you the number of couples that I know where one is Catholic and the other is not, either a Protestant or a non-baptized person. And their marriages are very healthy, very beautiful, signs of life and joy, and they're great. But every single one of those couples knew the difference, understood. And it has been a point of conversation ever since.
Yeah.
It's not always been easy for them, but it's so important that they've had those conversations.
Yeah.
That's how the church looks at marriage. It's like,
Yeah.
this is what we believe. If this isn't what you believe about marriage, you need to understand at least that this is what the Catholic Party believes, and you've got to be ready to accept that. Catholic Party, you've got to understand what the church teaches about marriage, because we don't do a good job teaching what we believe about marriage anyway.
Oh yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
That's also true. And so for somebody who's the non-Catholic or the either not baptized or non-Catholic party into this, how do they see themselves in like coming into this? Like, Matt Maher said something interesting, because I was listening about how he reflects on his marriage with his wife who's Methodist. He's like, there could be a temptation to kind of see like one is higher than the other, like, oh, like I'm holier than thou, but that's not true,
right?
Because what connects you is especially if it's a baptized person, it's Jesus who connects you in your marriage. Like that being primary. But I don't want to say I don't know if it's right to say this, but a preferential option towards the Catholic Party, because it's trying to protect the rights of the Catholic and the privileges of the Catholic.
Yeah, I suppose you could say it that way. The law of the church, first and foremost, is intended for the faithful. Somebody who's not a member of the faithful is not bound by canon law. Right. The church has no authority to say you are bound to do this thing unless it's something that you want to do within the church. So if you are not a member of the Catholic faithful, okay, the church would love to welcome you. Number one, you have a place here, and the church would love to welcome you as a member of the faithful. But if you're not a member of the Catholic faithful, we understand. But you want to come here and you want to do something, or you want to enter into something that will involve for life until death a member of the Catholic faithful. Well, here's what we need you to understand. It's like a guy comes to pick up his girlfriend, and dad wants to talk to him, right? And the father says, these are the rules for dating my daughter. And this is what I expect from you. And if you want to come into my house, this is what's going to be required. You're very welcome to be here. I'm glad that you're here. And my daughter is free to choose to date you. I respect her decision-making ability. But here's the deal. I need you to understand what these ground rules are. And it's as simple as, we have rules, and when you're in our house, we expect you to follow those rules. What you do outside of this house is entirely up to you. But if you come into our house, these are the rules that you have to follow. Essentially, that's what the church is saying. That marriage as a sacrament is something that the church has the responsibility to celebrate with this couple. But we need you to know what you're doing. It goes back to that, what sport are you playing? Yeah. We need you to know what sport you're playing and what the rules are so that you can do it correctly. If you don't want to do that, you are free to not do that, but you can't do it here. Right? So the church can't force anybody to do anything. No,
in the same way that, Jesus doesn't force you to be a priest. It's still a choice.
Exactly.
Can't force a sister to be a sister. It's like, at the end of the day, it's a choice.
But it would also be wrong to say nothing. And say, well, how come you didn't know what marriage was? Well, you never told me. Yeah. How come you didn't understand what the Catholic Church teaches about marriage? Well, the Catholic Church never told me, never gave me the opportunity to understand it. And now what the heck? No, we have the responsibility to tell you, tell you up front. Yeah. Here's what we believe. Here's what we're about. And we want you to share in this. Like, that's the thing. The sacraments are things we want people to have, but we need you to understand what you're doing, and that in order to celebrate this sacrament, in order to receive this sacrament, in order to get the most out of the sacrament, there's a right way to do it.
Because at the end, it's Jesus who created the sacrament.
Right. It's Jesus who takes that natural relationship of marriage and raises it to a supernatural level. Right.
Because as long as you see it from that perspective, it's always pointing back to Jesus, always pointing towards to how Jesus invites us to live out relationship with him.
And go back to, what is the purpose of marriage? Yeah. But that mutual support and sanctification of the spouses, to grow in holiness together, and to spend your entire life figuring out how to grow in that holiness and how to share in God's mission. Like the procreative aspect of marriage is to be a co-creator with God, to participate with God in his creative will for humanity and for the world. That's
huge.
That's a powerful thing.
That is super powerful.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Excellent.
All right.
What?
Siri's jumping in to share with us on this.
So cool.
Hey, listen, Paula.
She talks too much, but we should go.
Yeah, we should go because we're running out of battery here, and I didn't bring the power cord. So we're getting right down to the end of it.
No way. Okay, that's fine.
Hey, Paula, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Roar Like the Lamb. I'm Father Sam Kachuba.
And I'm Paola Peña.
God bless you.